Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of the This Is Gonna Hurt podcast with Jay Gordon Duncan. And if you're wondering why the J, the answer is, I'm not a bagpipe player. And if that joke doesn't make any sense, I encourage you to check out episode 0, where I explain that joke, as well as the purpose of the This Is Gonna Hurt podcast, where we talk about faith, family, fitness, finances, and sometimes fun. Hey, everyone, and welcome back to the This Is Gonna Hurt podcast. Thank you so much. Don't get tired of it. Thank you. Last week, the episode was on becoming a coach and why you should become a coach, and there was great response to that. Thank you. I enjoy telling my story and my progression to getting to where I'm at. I am loving watching our clients create coaching programs, and the language I used over and over again was broadening your impact. So it was great to see the impact that's happening right now because of our clients. And thank you for everyone who reached out to me about possibly becoming a coach. So if you're interested in becoming a coach, just reach out to me on all the socials. Find me on Facebook, or you can just go to capitalizeyourbest.com. But if you're thinking about becoming a coach, now is the time. I really encourage you to think about it. But thank you, everyone. The response last week was phenomenal. I want to do a little mini episode this week. This has been a topic that you've heard me discuss, and we're moving more in this space, and I'm going to have an announcement about it soon. But what I want to talk about is brain health. Now, first of all, guys, I'm not a doctor. I'm not trained in any way in any medical field. But I've learned a good bit that's been helpful for me in my epilepsy journey. And I'm looking to make some movements in that area to just broaden my impact to help people for brain health. So I hope this episode is helpful to you. You don't have to have a neurological condition or brain damage like I have or like many others have. But I want to talk about brain health for a little bit. Now, here's the thing, gang. We need to all be thinking about brain health. All of us. Right now, as we watch the extent of what's going on where people struggle with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, I mean, there's some really difficult conditions, ALS, that have such an impact right now, and we're not 100% sure why those conditions are caused, but right now is the time for every one of us to seek brain health. You know, growing up, I didn't know you could have a healthy brain. I just thought you had a brain, and at some point in time it quits working or something happens. I didn't realize growing up that you could actually do things to make your brain healthy. You only got one. You know that analogy like, hey, listen, if I gave you a car when you were 20 and told you this is the only car you're ever going to have, hopefully you'd take care of it. Not everybody would, but that's the way it works. We get one body, we get one brain, right? There are no brain transplants, right? Despite all the great sci-fi movies. You got one brain. We can't do a kidney transplant. I mean, you can do a kidney transplant. You can do other types of transplant. You can do a heart transplant, but there's nothing for the brain. You got one brain, and you've got to do what you can to keep it healthy. And here's the great thing. You can start your pathway to brain health now. So again, I want to caution you. Again, I am not medically trained, and I encourage you to go to your doctor and talk about brain health. But I'd like to share some things that I have seen and experienced that make for a healthy brain, okay? So a lot of this came out of my epilepsy journey. I began having seizures that I'm aware of in 2012. I have a history of brain injuries. I broke my nose 7 times when I was a kid. And there's at least 4 times in my life where I know I was knocked unconscious. Sadly, 3 of those times being knocked unconscious and the 7 broken noses all happened by the time I turned 13. So that's a lot of damage to my head when I was a small child, especially during those early formative years. And so what my doctors best understand is that my left frontal lobe experienced brain damage during that period. So I've had all the tests. I can watch my brain misfire and all of those things. But I lived a relatively brain-healthy life for a very long time. The brain is so mysterious. And then in 2012, 2 traumatic events happened. My father passed away in April, and though he had awful health and was going for a heart procedure, no one expected him at that moment to pass away. But he had a routine heart surgery, but they never were able to maintain his blood oxygen levels, and he eventually passed. And I had a wonderful relationship with my father. I'm very thankful for that. But it's hard to lose your father. It is. Well, at that point in time, focus then went towards caring for my mother. They got married in 1955 when she was 18. That's all she really knew. And so she was a wonderful woman. She's hanging in there. She's fighting every day. Why do I get out of bed and do what I do? But then in August, just a few months later, my mother got in a car crash and died. And thankfully, that was a very brief incident. The doctors expressed that she wasn't in any pain. She was in a medically induced coma. She lived maybe 24 hours and then passed. So that's tough. Guys, I was young. I was 42 at that time. Both parents passed in 4 months. At that same time, I was moving towards a big job change that we were considering, and we had just made that decision in August. In fact, we told my mom on a Tuesday, and she passed on a Friday or Saturday. And so we're thinking about uprooting our lives, moving to a different state from North Carolina to Virginia, to plant a church, and then dealing with my kids' emotions around losing their grandparents and then moving. The economy still wasn't great coming out of 2008, 2009, how we're going to get up there. There was so much going on. And the first seizure that I remember was Father's Day of 2012, because we were up here in Virginia visiting some friends, and my seizures are not grand mal. They're pauses. They're called silent seizures, where I just kind of phase out for a period of time. I might make some indecipherable noises, or I might say some things that don't make sense. I always liken it to like an elongated hallway in a horror movie. And I remember having one on Father's Day, right after my father died in 2012. We were sitting in the van after church, and Amy asked me, "Are you okay?" And I came out of it, and I was like, yeah. Just, I thought maybe I got lost in thought. I was trying to think of directions. And those became more and more frequent. And very much frequent after my mother died. We went to see a doctor in around October, November that year. And he said, "Hey, have you been under any stress?" And we kind of laughed. We're like, "Yeah, both my parents have died, and we're getting ready to move." And he said, "Listen, you're under a lot of stress. Try to eliminate stress in your life." I was a runner, so he knew I was healthy. At least I thought I was healthy. And you know what? I don't blame him. He didn't get it wrong. I presented as a person overly stressed. But then we did move up here, and then in 2013, the pauses got worse and more frequent. They happened when I was running. They happened when I was driving, which is pretty terrifying. And during a sermon, I was preaching, and I had a pause in my sermon. And a wonderful doctor in the crowd, he was an ER doctor, came up to me and said, "Gordon, you just had a seizure." It's called silent seizures, or partial complex, and went to see the neurologist. So that's my story. I've shared it before, but I wanted to set it for the context here. At that point in time, I really lost my brain for a period of time. The meds that I was on scrambled my brain. I'm having seizures. I'm trying to get my brain back. And as the meds kind of clear up and I get the med that's right for me, all of a sudden I'm dealing with a dulled brain because I'm taking a heavy dose, and the job of the med is to lower the impact of the seizure. So right now my left frontal lobe still misfires, but the meds lower the impact. It's literally slowing down my brain and slowing down my body. So I became lethargic. It became very difficult for me to articulate words. It was very difficult. I couldn't run. I went from 3 marathons in 2012 to barely being able to run 1 mile in a parking lot. I just cried my eyes out. So as the meds began to work and the impact outwardly of the seizures diminished, I had a fantastic doctor. He could have stopped there. But he's like, "Okay, let's keep going." And he gave me some literature about brain health, that things I did not know. And so he emphasized a couple things. First of all, he's like, "You've got to drink more water," because up till then I was still drinking sodas all the time. And he also talked about the importance of sleep. And he's just like, sleep is just absolutely essential for brain health. And he's like, "You got to get 8 hours of sleep," which I still struggle to do, but I used to pride myself on like 4 or 5. And so right now, I know a bunch of people that are like, oh, I only need 4 or 5 hours sleep. You're correct. You can function, but you're literally damaging your brain. It's from my neurologist. Plenty of other neurologists will say that. If you pride yourself on how little sleep you are getting, I used to be that person, you can do it, but you are literally aging your brain. You are damaging your brain. So you can do it. I used to do it. Lived off caffeine, tons of sodas, all that junk. You can do it, but don't pride yourself on it. You are damaging your brain. And so my doctor's like, sleep, 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 sleep. And if I don't get enough sleep, I'm groggy, I'm hazy, my brain is very clouded. I definitely try to get naps when I can. Listen, I'll take a 5-minute nap if I can get one. But I realized, he was like, you got to get sleep. In fact, when he first told me, he threatened me. He goes, if you don't get 8 hours sleep, I'm going to have to give you a lobotomy. And I have a friend who had a lobotomy for my condition. And we think of lobotomy, you think that you absolutely become inert and non-functioning. No, he could, if he wanted to, remove the damaged portion of my left frontal lobe and I could still function. And I have a friend who went through that surgery. And he functions differently, and he's successful at what he does, but that's what he threatened me with. He's like, Gordon, you got to start getting sleep or I'm going to give you a lobotomy. I don't know if he actually would or not, but it terrified me. So sleep. And you got to drink more water. And so right here, got my bottle of water, and I've got a reusable one, I refill, that I just try to get the water I need. And then he gave me some information on diet. Because our diets, what we eat, affects our brain. Now, a few years ago, there was a diet program that came out called the Atkins diet. It was very popular in the 90s and the 2000s. It's still out there. And it was basically a low-carb diet to lose weight, like cutting out lots of breads and sugars, right? Well, believe it or not, the Atkins diet was created for the treatment of epilepsy. That was the origin of that diet. Because what's terrible for the brain is lots of sugars. We think, oh, sugar's going to make me gain weight, and there's a big correlation there. But lots of sugars are terrible for the brain. It increases its activity. It exhausts the brain. So what they found in the Atkins diet like when it was used for epilepsy, is if you removed an overabundance of bread and you removed an overabundance of sugar, your brain was going to work much clearer. You would gain clarity. You would quit taxing your brain. So I read that and I was like, this is the way. So there was a period of time where I cut out all physical bread. I mean, just bread. I cut out my sweets. I quit drinking wine because wine is so full of sugars. And I just cut them out. And at that point in time, I was getting my marathon back. And all of a sudden, I started to make great strides as a marathon. I got a little too thin. We got that under control. But you know what? I got my brain back. Like it literally went from like 1 quarter foggy brain to another quarter. Like I felt like I woke up again. It was like Frankenstein. I'm like, what is going on? I woke up. And I was like, I can have my brain if I do certain things. If I get sleep, if I drink water, and I maintain my sugars. Now today, if I'm somewhere and there's a sandwich, I'm going to eat a sandwich. But I am not going to eat a lot of bread. I don't eat a lot of sweets. Like I just don't. They don't help me in any way. Sodas have been gone since 2013. I don't have 12 ounces of soda in me since 2013. And I'm not bragging. I'm just saying I don't need it and I don't want it. They don't do me any good. I used to love drinking a Coke. Oh my goodness, Coke was my deal. But nope, listen, I'm not bragging. I don't need it and I don't want it because it doesn't help my brain. If I'm drinking a soda and I'm having a sandwich with fries, my brain is hammered with sugars. Now listen, I'll have burger and fries. I will. But I'm not having it all the time and I've got to be smart about it. So guys, for your brain health, all the things you love are probably hurting your brain. Bread. In America, you know what bread is? In America, bread is a food delivery system. Like we just don't know how to eat food without bread attached to it. And so we got to have a muffin, or we got to have bread, or we got to have a bun. And I get it. We love it. But like we just think the way we get meat into our body is with bread. And you got to change that thinking. Again, I'm not saying you can't ever have it, but you got to be careful of the bread and the starches. And so reducing those will reduce the sugar in your brain. I am going to be pretty militistic about that. You don't need sodas. Please get rid of the sodas. I don't care if it says it's sugar-free, just get rid of the sodas. I know it tastes good. Man, oh man. I had a friend who they made it every afternoon with a Diet Coke, man. They did. And don't even get me started about energy drinks. Just forget them. Just forget them. And you're like, but these are all the things I love. And I'm like, I know, but they're not helping your brain. And sweets, oh my goodness. I'm not saying don't have sweets or don't have bread. I am telling you don't have sodas. But you've got to find a place for them. They can't be daily. Listen, there's some natural sugars like fruit. Good. You don't want to be careful with too many natural sugars, but natural sugars in bread, in fruit, fantastic. I have a fruit smoothie every single morning. I love it. I get a little bit of a sweet there, but I also get protein because I put some protein in there and I make a smoothie. I'll do an episode on a smoothie. One day I'll bring my stuff in here and maybe even make a smoothie for you guys. It's insanely loud. But brain health, are you sleeping? Are you drinking water? Are you being really selective with your sweets? Are you getting rid of sodas, getting rid of energy drinks? And you're like, Gordon, what do you do? Because you know what, here's the thing, I still drink my coffee. Did you know scientifically, if you take dark roast coffee that is organic and mold-free, that 2 cups of that a day helps your brain? You can't do 5 cups a day like I used to do, and I got to be careful because I love coffee. I can just drink it all the time. But 2 cups a day, dark roast, organic and mold-free, don't put any sweeteners in there, it's going to help your brain. That's insane. What a good thing. Water. At least make it a LaCroix if you got to, but just water is going to help you. If you need sweets, there's some fantastic sweets in fruit. If you need chocolate, go dark chocolate at least. Get rid of the milk chocolate mess. Dark chocolate's a little better, at least 60%. You can't just pound it all the time, but it's better for you. And then you can begin to find alternatives for your habits. Because here's the thing, guys. Our eating and drinking, purely habit. It's just what we've trained ourselves to do. But we've got to ask ourselves, are we eating and drinking in such a way that's helping our brain? You only got one. There's no replacement. So right now, if you could quit bragging on how little sleep you need, if you could create a pattern where you get to bed a little earlier, just maybe turn off Netflix. And listen, I love my shows too. I get it. If you could double your water, what is it? They recommend body ounce of half your body weight. So basically, if you weigh 150 pounds, you need 75 ounces of water. That's a lot of water. I got friends who do the gallon a day. I'm just so impressed with them. I just really am. They're walking around with milk jugs. I'm just really impressed with them. Sleep, water, really be selective on the sweets. Cut out all the bread you have. You can't have bread, 2-3 meals a day. And then, dudes, just get rid of the sodas and the energy drinks. I can't recommend it enough. So, guys, that's my approach to brain health. I approach every day as a student of brain health. I hadn't even gotten into rewiring the mindset for encouragement and positivity and those kind of things. It plays a part. But we'll get to that another day. Right now, we're talking about the immediate things you can do for brain health. So increase your sleep, get some water, get rid of the sodas, cut out the sweets, and then you can have them every now and then, and just be really wise with the bread and the starches, and it's going to find more clarity for you than you've ever had. So again, friends, don't brag on all the stuff you do and survive with if it's hurting your brain. I am not a doctor. I'm not trained in the medical field. Please seek out a doctor. Go see your doctor. Talk about brain health. These are the things that I've seen that have helped me. I've seen it help other folks with neurological conditions, and I hope it helps you. Sorry, gang. I can't wait to see you again next week. Interviews coming up. I look forward to talking to you soon, and we'll talk to you then. Okay, guys? Bye-bye.
How do you shorten the time it takes to buy a car? Car buying just got easier. Pohanka365.com lets you complete as much or as little of the car buying process online. Pohanka365.com. Car buying simplified. Anytime, anywhere.
Small business owners, you should be praised for wanting to grow your business. That's a good thing, and not everybody has the guts to do it. As a business owner myself, I know you've overcome obstacles that people don't even know about. Hi, my name is Gordon Duncan, the owner of Capitalized Marketing and Consulting, and I want you to know that if your business hasn't grown like you wanted to, it's not your fault. If it's not COVID getting in the way, it's ridiculous things like changing social media algorithms. You're right in thinking that very few people are doing small businesses any favors right now. But Capitalized Marketing and Consulting is here to help. We've created a 90-day course that is guaranteed to grow the revenue of your business. It will give you the tools that you've been looking for, and as a certified coach, I would be with you along the way. If you would like to learn more about our program, just visit CapitalizeYourBest.com and get started enjoying the success you deserve. Again, that's CapitalizeYourBest.com, and I can't wait to celebrate all you accomplish.